So UFC 306, I texted you yesterday and I said, should I empty the account on Merab? And what'd you say?
I wouldn't.
You're now rocking with the funny truth, because it's better when it laugh. The truth is more appealing when it puts you on your ass. Keep it real, I will make it slap with the real. I feel like everybody got a cap, and I'm finna reveal it through a joke. The humor is the way that I provoke. It's the only way to get you to promote. So here we go. We getting serious now. It's the truth, but you know we gotta give you a smile. You know we gotta do that now. Stick around, and we gon' make you laugh out loud. Stick around, and we gon' make you laugh out loud. You're now rocking with the funny truth.
Would I be shocked if either fighter won? And I know that's a bit of a cliche. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I think both fighters have got the path to victory. Both fighters could win. But I genuinely think that I mean, I would never recommend emptying the bank account on any fighter. You know, MMA is a volatile sport as it is, but I genuinely think that I wouldn't call it a 50-50 fight. I've got my lean, which we can talk about in a bit, but I genuinely, I think that it would definitely be a bad idea emptying your account on Marab.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
And just
so
really
times.
Quickly as well, Adam, just for everybody listening as well, like. I've been a professional gambler now for almost 10 years. And when you look back on Marab's, I'm just bringing it up now. When you look back on Marab's record and who he's fought in the UFC, I think I pretty much bet on Marab in, I wouldn't say every fight. I think it's most fights in the UFC. I've bet on Marab. Won every bet, of course. Never lost on him. If he's been under minus 300, I've likely took that. I've even had him at plus money against, Petr Yan when every man and his dog was on Petr Yan to absolutely smoke him. So I've been, Marab's been a real cash cow for me in the UFC. Like, I'm just looking at the record now. Casey Kenny, I think I bet him there. Gustavo Lopez, I bet him there. John Dodson, I think I bet him there. Stamen, I definitely bet him. Marlon Moraes, I definitely bet him. Aldo, I bet him. Yan, I bet him. I didn't bet him against Cejudo.
Why'd you throw Stamen under the bus? You said I definitely bet him.
It was just a real good matchup.
Yeah.
That fight.
Yeah.
I thought that the line was much shorter than what it should have been. And yes, Cejudo was the only one that I didn't, just because of Cejudo's wrestling. Just didn't know how it was going to factor in with Marab. So yeah, pretty much every fight apart from maybe a couple in the UFC that I've not bet Marab.
Yeah, from the handicapper analysis, I don't know. From what I've seen, I feel like it's going to be like the Bilal Muhammad fight. That's what I think it's going to be, but I could be wrong. That's maybe just because I said that right after the Bilal fight. I was like, the next one is going to be just like this. Because that's kind of how he is. Like, if you love MMA and you appreciate the sport, you're like, that's not boring. But if you want to see some highlight reels, definitely not highlight reel knockout.
Yeah, listen, you're talking to the right guy when it comes to wrestling and grappling. Like the Dagestani Russians, since I first started watching this sport, has always been the style that I've enjoyed the most. Of course, I like the big knockouts. Like, you can't forget about when Ngannou knocked over him out, and we thought there was a dead body on the canvas for a minute. But the Dagestani Russians, the wrestling, the NCAA D1 wrestlers in the UFC, it's always been the style that I've personally loved the most. And I know from the outside, if you're maybe a boxing fan that's come into MMA and you want to see the big knockouts, that you find the wrestling and grappling boring. But for me, I love that. I love that side of the game.
Now, do you like watching boxing?
No.
No,
I'm not a boxing fan at all. Don't get me wrong. There's been a couple of fights that I have watched and really enjoyed. I can't remember the opponent now, but it's a famous one for Carl Froch when he said, "Oh, I've done it in front of 80,000 in front of Wembley." I can't remember who that opponent was, but that was a good fight. Again, we're going back years though with that. There has been a couple.
Not Jake Paul.
No. But look, boxing's not for me. When someone gets knocked down, I want them to get on top, land some ground and pound, some elbows,
Right.
look for a submission. That's
Yeah.
I appreciate the sport like
Right.
100%.
Right.
It's
For
a
what it
tough
is.
sport, and it's an Olympic sport. And look, when I used to train myself, I could never box. I was more of a kickboxer with my striking, so
Yeah.
I can absolutely appreciate the difficulty that comes with boxing, and like I say, it's an Olympic sport. It's one that you have to respect. But just like with football and rugby, I cannot stand rugby. I like to watch football, or for you guys who call it soccer incorrectly. But yeah, boxing's not for me.
Yeah, the last one I watched was Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and it was just so annoying because every time something looked like it was going to happen, the ref breaks it up. And then it feels like if there's, a rigged sport, boxing is right up there at the top, just given its history.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah, I completely agree. I think it's probably one of the most corrupt sports on the planet, if I'm being honest. Like even at Olympic level, like I was watching some of the Olympic boxing, and look, I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly how boxing scored because I don't, but you get an idea as a spectator when someone's done better than somebody else when you're watching combat sports, and there were robberies in the Olympics.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that. A couple things. First of all, did you watch the Ngannou and Tyson Fury boxing match?
Yeah, I did watch that.
I don't know if it felt like Ngannou won because I like UFC, and all the people I was with, I was like, dude, you should, because like Fury was like minus. It was not worth betting on, and I was like, dude, if you put $10 on Ngannou and he wins, you can get like $100-something bucks. You might as well.
Yeah.
And then it felt like he won, but. I just feel like they weren't going to let him.
So me and my wife watch this, and my wife doesn't really watch combat sports unless she's live at an event. But we were both sort of really intrigued by this Fury and Ngannou, this Ngannou fight. So we watched it, and after the fight finished, after the final bell, I remember saying to her, "I think Ngannou's won the fight, but there's absolutely no way they're going to score it to Ngannou," and that's exactly what happened.
I think he got one judge's decision, if I remember correctly.
But was that also not the fight where they booked Usyk before that fight had even happened as well? Because I'm pretty sure before Ngannou fought Fury, they already lined up Fury versus Usyk as a championship fight a couple of months afterwards, before Fury fought Ngannou. So again, there was absolutely no way they were going to have gone through all that difficulty of booking the fight, signing the contracts, getting the venue, started promoting it, for then Fury to lose that fight. It would have been horrific for them. So,
right, and so and going to decision in boxing is a lot more common than it would be in like a UFC heavyweight fight going to a decision.
Yeah, exactly.
It's weird to me how the heavyweights have like the longest shelf lives. Like you'll see their records and you'll be like 41 wins, 27 losses, and you'd think that they take the most damage being that big. Do you know why that is?
No, I've got no idea. It's the same with the UFC though.
That's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about.
Okay,
UFC.
Yeah. Like UFC heavyweights peak at like maybe 35, I would say. In my opinion, just on an average perspective. Obviously, some are before, some are after. Like you look at Randy Couture, I think he won a belt at like 43 or whatever it was. So, I do think that it's around 35, 36, whereas, you look at a 35, 6-year-old flyweight and, they're at the tail end of their career. At least that's what the public perspective is on it. But yeah, look, going back to this O'Malley and Yan fight as well, like one thing that you mentioned there is you thought it was very similar to Bilal, and that's what you said to me on WhatsApp a couple of days ago now.
Yeah.
You said, look, I think it's going to be exactly the same. Now, I kind of disagree with that, and I give you a couple of reasons why. There's a stylistic reason.
Because Bilal had hands?
Kind of. I think there's a stylistic reason, and there's a skill set reason. So, first of all, I think that whereas Bilal was an all-round type of fighter in regards to his style, like I don't think he specifically shines in one specific area. He's just very good everywhere. I think Merab's more of a specialist within the wrestling, the pressure wrestling. So I think there's a difference there in regards to comparing Bilal to Marab.
That's fair.
The second thing, from a skill set perspective, is one thing that Bilal was able to do that Merab isn't able to do. And bear in mind, look, I'm not going to be someone that talks down on Merab. He's been a cash cow for me. Like I said right at the start, there's a reason I bet him in almost every fight. But one thing Merab doesn't do, and I've even said this on every single breakdown I've done of Merab, is he doesn't have topside grappling at the higher level in the UFC. So the better level of opponents he's been fighting as he's made his way up into the UFC, the less top control time he's had, because the better fighter you fight, the better they are everywhere. And these fighters in the top 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, they can all stand back up to their feet if they're taken down, if there isn't a real good topside grappler on top of them. And Merab just isn't that. And the proof of that, go and look at how many takedowns he actually completes in a single fight. He's up there with 7 takedowns, 8 takedowns, 9 takedowns, 10 takedowns. The reason he's hitting 10 takedowns in a fight, in a 3-round fight as well, is because his opponents are standing back up. So he's got to take them down again. So what Bilal did against Leon is, when he took him down, Leon put his shoulder to the cage, and Bilal was sinking a hook in on the cage. He was holding him down, controlling him. He was doing some good work within the grappling. I just do not see Merab having that type of success against Sean O'Malley with controlling the grappling. So now what you've got,
I feel like you see that I feel like you see that the smaller weight classes they are, the less they're able to have control time in general.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you look at a heavyweight, a 265-pound man on top of you. It doesn't matter if you're 265 pounds yourself. It's going to be very difficult to shift that human being on top off the top of you. But what you've got now then with Merab not being able to have extended periods of time controlling topside, and I mentioned this on my own podcast as well, it's the shift in how the judges are scoring fights. The judges no longer score takedowns very highly. And I think this is going to be a real issue for Merab's style. And this is something that's only happened over the last couple of years. Like, go back 4 or 5 years ago, and Merab's a cash cow for a reason. He's scoring a lot of takedowns and he's scoring a lot of points. But basically what I'm saying for this fight, I think if Merab's scoring takedowns, O'Malley's going to be getting straight back up. There's going to be a lot of time in the clinch against the cage. Merab's going to be on a single leg, chaining to a double leg, maybe trying to sneak around the back, and he'll be effective in what he's doing against the cage. However, there is going to be moments where O'Malley separates and exit out into space, and whilst they're out into space, Merab's hittable. Merab's also going to be shorter. He also wants the takedown, so he's going to have to close the distance on O'Malley. And when he's coming in, he's hittable. I think O'Malley's going to be landing some good strikes, some good sniper shots. There might be a knee up there as well. And even if O'Malley doesn't knock Merab out, I think when you're looking at the rounds, if you're seeing maybe a minute, maybe 60, 90 seconds worth of good striking from O'Malley, and then the rest of the round is Merab just trying to run the clock down, or maybe not trying to, but running the clock down by trying to wrestle, I think the judges are going to favour the work that O'Malley's doing with how they're scoring fights in 2024. And this is why...
That's what I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, this is why I paused on a Merab bet for this fight, because now you can grab Merab at plus money. Okay, so this would be an ideal spot for me to bet Merab, but I just can't. I can't get on board with Merab for this fight. Like, would I be shocked if he landed 20 takedowns? Because, Adam, there does become a point where even if you aren't doing anything topside, if Merab's scoring 5-6 takedowns per round, which his cardio will allow him to do, then that becomes a point where it crosses that line, and the work that O'Malley's doing probably isn't as significant. But I genuinely don't think Merab will, Merab's been wrestling that heavy to do 6 or 7 takedowns in a round. So I just think that the work that O'Malley does out in space, the judges are going to like more than what Merab's doing. I think it's a case of that. And also, very last point, I think Sugar Sean is coming into UFC superstar status. I think he's super marketable. I think the UFC want to get behind him. The UFC will absolutely market him more than Merab. I mean, Even Dana White's been slating Merab for coming out with the cut on his eye and showing that in public. So it's very obvious who the UFC wants to win this fight, and more often than not, the UFC get what they want. So that's where I'm at.
Well, yeah, and it's not like Merab's really a finisher type of fighter. So I wanted to bring up judges scoring. This was, I believe, the Tai Tuivasa fight got destroyed. Like, it should have been a 30-27, maybe a 10-8 round in one of those rounds, and he lost by split decision. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think it was to Rosenstruik.
Oh yeah. Okay, so there's been some terrible cards. I think there was a couple on that. There was a couple on that specific event as well. There was another one. Yeah, there was definitely another one that was just absolutely shocking. It was actually worse than that Tai Tuivasa one.
Really?
And I actually bet Tuivasa as well. Like, so
I did too.
I was like, yeah. So when the scorecards came up, obviously as soon as they won.
Yeah, I had it on upstairs, and I came downstairs and was going to take a break between the fights and went up and saw the tweets and stuff and was like, oh, split decision. And they said they kicked the judge out for the rest of the card. Yeah,
that was the one that kicked the judge out. But yeah, when I heard the one judge's name, it's going to be a split. So I was sat there thinking, come on, rob him. Just for my own benefit, obviously.
Now,
for my bet to win. I don't like seeing bad judges' decisions, but it's a part of the sport now, I suppose.
Yeah, those are, and they go your way sometimes too, where you're like, I won. All right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So
not often enough though.
Do they? I know with sports betting, there's another page I follow that does a lot of football, baseball stuff, and they have one of their big analytics, betting overs and unders and spreads, and they have a whole system for whoever's reffing and what the spread is to start and who's the underdog and whatnot. Do we know that in UFC? Is there anywhere to find who's going to be reffing and who's going to be judging?
Sometimes it's leaked. Not that I say leaked in a bad way. Sometimes the information is given to, it's given to certain outlets. So I have seen something from MMA Junkie, MMA Fighting for an upcoming pay-per-view. They've said, right, for the main event, it's going to be this referee and these judges. For the co-main event, it's this referee and these judges. They don't do it for every fight or for every fight card. It only seems to be these real huge global events where they'll probably just leak the main event and co-main event. So no, it's very difficult. But I'll be honest with you, Adam. I don't think refereeing's an issue in the sport. I think that a referee will have a bad performance every now and again, but that's just sport. You're going to get that in every single sport. Sure. I genuinely don't think there's a certain referee or multiple referees in the UFC that I'd be like, nah, he's not good. I don't think the referee's an issue. I think judging's an issue. I think judging's the real problem. Yeah. But the reason why I don't think it's that significant telling you which judges are going to be judging the fights beforehand is I kind of don't think there's many great judges out there anyway, so I don't think it matters. I think you're always going to be playing with fire a little bit, and that's just the sport. Look, I think more often than not the judges get it right, which is the best thing that I can say about MMA judges, but the lack of consistency and the obvious bad scorecards are just happen more than they should.
It could be something to note, if you found some sort of trend where when this person's judging and it does go to a decision, you're like, this fight's probably going to go to a decision, that this person usually wins if they're a favorite or something. There's got to be something, but
what I look for when I'm sort of analysing fights, the thing that I do actually put some weight into is if my fight is a bit of a decision king, right? Mm-hmm. It's how they win. It's how they're winning decisions. If they're winning them closely, close competitive rounds, but they're just finding the edges in specific rounds, that causes a bit of concern. If they're a decision king because they absolutely just dominate every minute of the fight, then that's fine. That's what you want. So I do try and stay away from if I like fighter A to beat fighter B, but I know fighter A fights to close decisions but does win more often than not, I'll still be very hesitant on betting that fighter. if a fighter I know goes to a decision and, like I say, is ragdolling his opponents or is a super slick striker that's impossible to take down. I'll give you a good example. Taylor Lapilus. I bet Taylor Lapilus a few months ago. And he's one of these, again, elite level strikers where not many fighters are going to be at his level outside of the top 15, but he's got almost godlike takedown defense. And if for some reason you do manage to take him down, he's got a godlike get up there. Like, you're not going to be able to keep the dude down either. So I know that he's going to go to a decision probably, right? But I also know he's not going to get taken down, and if he is, he's going to stand right back up, and then the judges aren't going to score. Like exactly what I just said with Merab against O'Malley. So then it comes down to the striking, and I know he's a better striker than my opponent. And again, there's a lot of similarities in what I've just said there with O'Malley and Merab. I think Merab's going to score takedowns definitely, but I don't think he's going to get the top time enough to score, to score, or at least weight heavily on the judges in the judges' eyes. And then I think it leaves us with the analysis of who's going to be the better striker, and I think that's absolutely going to be O'Malley.
Yeah, that's so. Really, I don't think that's a contest.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any fighter that you can never seem to win on? For me, it's been Izzy. Every time I bet on him, I've lost. Every time I bet against him, I lose.
Yeah. So there's been a couple. Historically, it actually first started with Chris Weidman. So I'm just going to get it up on Tapology now. So Chris Weidman, and then there is a current fighter who's actually a champion who I actually struggle with, believe it or not. So Chris Weidman, just getting these up now on Tapology. So Weidman was horrific. So let me go back. I do have a good memory with my bets. So I bet Anderson Silva in the first fight when he knocked Silva out. I didn't bet, and then I bet Silva the second fight as well, and he beat Silva in the second fight also. Then I did bet Chris Weidman against Machida, but that was actually a controversial decision, I believe. And then I didn't bet him against Belfort. Or did I bet Belfort against White? I might have bet Belfort, and then I bet Weidman against Rockhold, lost. I bet Weidman against Romero, lost. I bet Weidman against Mousasi, lost. And I was like, right, I'm not betting Weidman. So then I bet Kelvin Gastelum against Weidman, and he won. And then I bet Weidman against Jacare, and he lost. I bet Weidman against Reyes, he lost. And then I bet on Akhmedov against Weidman, and he won. So yeah, he's really frustrated me. The current fighter that I struggle with, I have one bet on him, but he's Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira
same,
fights.
Man. Oh, dude.
So like, I bet Strickland against Pereira. Pereira won. I didn't bet the Adesanya fight, so I stayed away from that first Adesanya fight. But I bet Pereira in the second fight against Adesanya and lost that. The fight that I won on Pereira was Jan Blachowicz, but he almost threw that fight away. Like, it's just crazy how I almost lost that bet. Somehow the split went the right way. So then I got put off by Pereira because of that. So then I bet Yuri Prohatska against Pereira, lost that. Then I bet Jamal Hill against Pereira, lost that. And then I stayed away from that second Yuri fight because at this point I was just like, well, yeah, I'm struggling. So yeah, Pereira's not been a good fight.
He pretty much won every fight except the Adesanya fight.
Yeah, and I think it was the Jan Blachowicz fight that completely and utterly threw me. And like, looking back at that now, I think that's just one of those fights that I think the athlete just had an off night. And you have to appreciate and understand that as good as any athlete is, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi, they're going to have a bad game. They're going to have a bad game where they're not in the game, when they're not doing anything, and they are the best in the world, or we're the best in the world.
Well, yeah, and fighting's so different because you can't just like go back and get it right back. You have to wait, maybe have injuries. Yeah. People are like, I'm not fighting him again. I'm fighting someone else. So yeah, that's and then there's like it's not like you build up to a playoffs. It's like they choose who gets to fight, and it's all hearsay. What was I going to ask you? So the other one that I'm really interested in, that I'm like, you've kind of talked me down from the ledge on Marab. Makes sense.
What I would say to everybody is, look, regardless of what I say, what my opinions and my analysis and breakdowns, I've been wrong before. I'll definitely be wrong again. So, you know, if you're confident in your lean and what you're seeing, then absolutely go for it. But like I say, I'm just giving you my opinions and my thoughts on how the fight's going to take place, chances of fighters winning by finish, by decision, how the judges are going to potentially be scoring the fight. And also as a champion as well, you've got to beat the champion too. And I don't think Merab's going to finish O'Malley. I don't think he knocks him out. I don't think he submits him.
Dude, if you were to bet that Merab finishes him, that would be, I think, it would be, you would like 10x your money.
Yeah, so look, for Merab to win, it's going to be by decision, and he's going to have to dominate O'Malley to win. And I just don't think he dominates. I think he's competitive, 100%. Just don't think he dominates.
Okay. The other one I'm really excited about, the last 3 fights of that card, I'm really excited for. I've always been a big Shevchenko fan. Do you think she gets the title back? Was it a fluke?
No, I don't think she gets the title back. I think,
really?
I've got some strong thoughts on this fight actually, because I just went out on a run yesterday. I'm still a bit stiff. So with Grasso, right, she's progressively getting better in this specific fight. Mm-hmm. You look at the first fight, she was losing the fight, I think, in my opinion, comfortably. I don't think there'll be many people that disagree. And then she capitalized on a strange mistake that Shevchenko made and submitted her. So then you go into the second fight, and I'm thinking, well, look, for a start, Shevchenko, even though she lost that first fight by submission, she's still the favourite in the second fight, which tells you, you know, what went down in that first fight. So,
is she the favorite? I thought she was the underdog.
No. Shevchenko was the favorite in the second fight. She wasn't as big of a favorite.
This is their third time fighting.
No, this is the third time fighting. Yeah. So the first fight, Grasso submitted her. The second was losing the entire fight. The second fight, Shevchenko's still the favorite, just a shorter favorite, and it goes to the draw. Now, I think there's a couple of things wrong with that decision. First of all, I personally had it 2-2 going into round 3, and I thought Grasso did win that final round. So I thought Grasso actually won the fight. The second thing is, a judge scored round 5. One judge scored round 5 to a 10-8 round to Grasso, which made the draw. If that judge had scored 10-9, which, by the way, absolutely was a 10-9, yes, Grasso had a good round, but it wasn't a 10-8. So if that was a 10-9, which I believe it should have been, Shevchenko wins the fight and gets the belt back. However, the way I'm seeing the fight is I saw a much more competitive Grasso that I thought won the fight. So we're going from fight 1 where it was close, but Grasso wasn't on Shevchenko's level. Now we go to the second fight, and Grasso's looking insane. She's switching stances. She's fighting southpaw, orthodox. She drops Shevchenko in that second fight. So now
which is
I'm
rare.
thinking, exactly. So now I'm thinking, Grasso's getting progressively better every time she fights this specific opponent. So going into the third fight this weekend, I think she looks even better again.
You think that? I think that division's just so bleak as far as other people who can really compete outside of the top 2, that they're having a third fight.
I think that when you, but the part of the trilogy is because Grasso won an upset victory, so the rematch was always going to happen, and then that rematch was a draw, so they have to run it back again. So I think there's an element of that as well. But the other side to this is, I think the percentage is something like 71% of rematches are won by the fighter that won the first fight.
Sure.
And when it comes to championship fights, when a dominant, long reigning champion loses their belt, they never really seem to win it back. Of course, it happens a couple of times, but more often than not, they never win that belt back. Now, Shevchenko's 36 years old. I feel like she lost a belt and hasn't been able to win it back in the rematch, even though it was a draw. And I just don't. And I just feel that Grasso is just getting her. Every time she fights her, every minute that she's in the cage with her, every round she's in the cage with her, I think she's getting more data on her. I think she's learning more about her style, and that's why she's becoming progressively better. And I just think I think with Shevchenko, where Shevchenko has proven to to be better than Grasso is within the wrestling. She's a much better wrestler. She's taken her down 8 times across the 2 fights, 4 times in each fight, and Grasso's been able to stand up every single time, and she doesn't spend too long on her back. So again, a bit like what I mentioned with O'Malley, I think if Shevchenko takes her down, which I absolutely expect her to take her down, I think Grasso gets right back up to her feet. And then this pressure boxing from Grasso, I think, is just a bit of a kryptonite for Shevchenko. I really do. So yeah, I think Grasso wins.
Okay, so you got both the favorites, and then are you taking Ortega, or are we looking at Lopez? My gut would say take Lopez, but if you're convincing me that the two, because I've never picked. Have you ever picked a perfect main card before? I've never.
I will have done it at some point. I mean, I've been watching UFC for 10 years, so I'm sure it will have happened at some point. I'm sure it will have happened hard as well. But I'll tell you where I'm at with Ortega, and because another thing as well, just really quickly, Joan, you mentioned to me about fighters that I've never really been good at betting. Ortega's another one. He's always been a bit strange to me. Like he's won where I felt like he shouldn't have won, and then he's lost in the fights that I've jumped on him because he's winning the fights that he shouldn't have won, and then he loses them. So this fight was actually booked a couple of months ago, if you remember. Ortega missed weight.
Yeah, I showed up to the bar and was like, Dan Ige's fighting? I was like, did I miss something here?
So they were booked before, and listen, on the flip side, Lopez has been a bit of a cash cow for me as well. Like, I bet Lopez at even money against Gavin Tucker when every man and his dog was on Tucker. I bet Lopez at plus money. I think it was plus money against Sabatini. Every man and his dog on Sabatini. So look, I love Diego Lopez. Now, when these two were originally scheduled to fight, I not only picked Ortega, but I bet him. And
I think I rode that one as well. And
and obviously the bet was buoyed because Ortega pulled out, and I was quite happy about that. I've actually not bet this fight this time. I've picked Diego Lopez. The way Lopez fought against Dan Ige, I know it was on short notice, but what people have got to understand about Dan Ige stepping in on short notice is he lives in Vegas. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He trains at Extreme Couture. He'll be in the gym every day. Maybe he's not in his own fight camp, but he'll be helping teammates in their fight camp, which means he'll be training as aggressively and as fast paced as what his teammates are. So there's no way he comes into that fight like not ready. He's ready. He's in the gym every day. And the way that Diego Lopez dealt with Dan Ige really surprised me. Because
didn't he knock him out? Wasn't it like a brutal knockout?
No, it was a decision, I think.
Really?
Was it a decision? Well, I'm pretty sure it was a decision.
I remember it was a beatdown.
Yeah, it was a dominant win. It was a unanimous decision. So, I don't think Dan Ige is Brian Ortega's level. I think they're very close, but they're not quite the same. But still, the way that Lopez dealt with Ige shows that he's hanging with some of the best guys in the division. Because although I don't think Dan Ige's at Ortega's level right now, Dan Ige is still a world-class fighter in the division. So, the way that Lopez handled him, I think that Diego Lopez is got Ortega. I've always been bad at picking Ortega fights. The fact that I flipped as well, not only did I pick Ortega, but I bet him, and now I'm picking Diego Lopez. From a betting perspective, I don't like the line. I wish it was a bit closer. I think if it was like -125, -130 on Lopez's side, I would probably bet Lopez, but we'll put like -180. I'm not interested, but I just think that Lopez is the goods.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what people like, because whenever I get interested in something, I want to learn as much as I can about it. So that's how I came across MMA play, and there was really nothing else. Still don't think there's anything else like it.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
And I was like betting, like learning like closing line values and shopping around at different books if you have access to different books, and like not even necessarily picking who you think is going to win. Because when I first started, all I would do was handicap, and I would just watch Fight Pass and watch their last fights. And they don't show the person's last fight either, which is annoying. But I think they offer that on MMA Play, right? Do you have something for that?
Yeah, so we've got the tape index, which helps fight study. So it's like $3.99 a month. UFC, Bellator, PFL, Cage Warriors. It's basically just a long list of links. So rather than going on UFC Fight Pass and trying to find certain fights, because also on UFC Fight Pass, certain fights aren't.
Yeah, dude, the last fight that the fighters were in, they never have it available. It's like, it's an error.
So when that happens, it's normally in an event. So they don't cut out the individual fights. So you'd have to find the events that they were in, and then scrub up to where the fight starts. So again, that's something else we do with the tape index. We'll put that link on and say fight starts at 33 minutes 20 seconds.
That's cool.
So then you just go to you go straight to that.
Yeah. So when I was handicapping, back to what I was doing is I was probably doing it. It was probably taking me like 40 to 60 hours a week, because I was like, I have to watch at least 3 fights of every single person, and I don't want to even look at the lines. I'm just gonna pick my winners, and then I'll go look at the books and see if it's worth betting on them. And that was interesting, but that's way too much time. Way too much time, personally.
I give it. It depends how you like to bet. So, I personally, I know other people like you as well that like to watch the tape before the line, so the line doesn't influence the analysis. But if you can get over that block of being influenced by a betting line, it's really worth looking at the betting line first. For the reason you just said. And what I mean by that is, look, if I look at a betting line and I see a fighter at -500, -600, I know for a fact I ain't betting that fight. I'm not betting an MMA fighter at -500, -600 with real money. There's not value in it in this sport, because anything can happen. So I just won't watch tape on that fight. What's the point in wasting 2, 3, 4 hours on a fight where I know I'm not going to bet it?
That's why I stopped doing it.
What I look for is close line fights, underdogs that are maybe between like +200, +300, and then I know that those are the fights that I'll look into. And bear in mind, like, I've been watching this sport for years, so I've got a good idea of pretty much every fighter that fights in the UFC and who they are. So again, if I see a fighter at +300 and I'm like, yeah, he's +300 for a reason, I don't think he's going to win this fight, then again, I'll not watch tape on it. I put my time into the fights with the lines that I know that are bettable.
It's weird how the software will have the matchups where you're like, the book had it right, this person was a -400 for a reason, but like the software said that they were like, the other person was like a 59% favorite to win. I'm like, at those odds, like, I have to bet on it. I think the best one was OSP. Like, in my mind, I'm like, there's no way in fuck that he's winning this fight. But it says he's like a 60% chance. And it was like,
are you talking about Base AI here?
OSP when he fought Kennedy and Juku, and he was like,
are you when you say the software, are you talking about Base AI? Yeah. Okay.
I was like +500, and I was like, I'll take it. And
so the craziest one that Base AI has ever predicted. And for those that are listening, that's the UFC prediction software on MMA Play 365.com. But the craziest one that Base AI had was Strickland to beat Adesanya, which I didn't speak to a single person or know of a single person that picked Strickland confidently to win that fight. So when that came in, our guys that run the AI team are out in South Africa. So as soon as that came in, I went straight onto the head developer and said, "Look, bro, like, is this right?" And he was like, "That's what the AI's saying." So I like, right, okay, and yeah,
that was the Adesanya pick was like my lock. Like, oh yeah, he's not. There's no way he's losing this one. That was probably one of the best upsets I've seen. That's pretty cool. I don't think Strickland will ever be a champion. The beauty of
that AI is when I spoke to the guy at the head AI team, he's also a big MMA fan that bets MMA as well. And even he said to me, he was like, yeah, dude, like, that's wrong. Not wrong as in, like, the algorithm's wrong, but he was just like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, there's no way Adesanya loses this fight. Like, the AI's crazy for siding with Strickland. And then, of course, it comes in. Another big one as well, Robert Whittaker against Dricus du Plessis. the AI was very heavy on Duplessis, and again, I was like, nah, like I'm so confident in Whittaker winning this fight. And again, I think Whittaker was like minus 400 in that fight as well.
I guess, and that's why I like the AI element, and I almost weigh on that more because, I mean, I've watched fights and been like, I think I analyzed this perfect and was not. But I like I just like they're going to put the answer out there because I think we oftentimes, Whittaker's a very likable guy. Is he very likable to most people? You just have like fan favorites that you're like, I can't bet against this guy. I can't root against him. I don't want to see him get knocked out. But
again, like I stay away from that. I just do not have any favorites in this sport. Like I've just been so many times I've bet on one fighter, won a big bet on him, and then the next time that fighter fights, bet against him. The one thing that I will say with the AI, obviously I don't use the AI to bet. I do all my analysis about a week before every event anyway, so I'm always a week in advance, whereas the AI predictions come out the week of the fight. So I'm always in front of the AI anyway. And also we've got the AI section and the handicapper section, so I can't use the AI to influence my bets for multiple reasons. However, once I've done my analysis, I know who I'm betting, and then the following week the AI the AI predictions will come out for that event. So when I look at the AI results, if one of them's weighted heavily against a fighter that I know I'm going to bet, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't a bit like, shit. You know, it doesn't change, it doesn't affect what I'm about to do. I'll never let it have an effect in what I bet because of, like I say, we've got the difference in the packages. But like, yeah, sometimes I'm a bit like, oh no. But then when there's a high prediction on a fighter that I know I'm going to bet, I'm more uplifted. I'm like, yes, the AI agrees with me. So I get where you're coming from. Like I put a lot of weight in the AI, and by the way, this is coming from someone that, a few years ago, I just didn't think it was possible for AI to be consistently good. And I'm talking about 3-4 years ago, I wasn't really a believer in it. And even when we brought it into the AI through our other business even when we brought the AI into MMA Play 365 through our other business partners, I was still very much on the fence about it. I let them do what they needed to do because, they had a pathway and a vision for the business. But even I was a bit like, how good is it actually going to be? And then I think it was maybe like six months to a year. I was really, really sold on it.
Well, yeah. I love looking at numbers. Doesn't mean I know what I'm doing, but I like looking at them. I'm like, that's how I found MMA Play. I was like, I need someone to just condense all this so I can wake up on Saturday and make my picks. Maybe a little homework if I'm still not sure, but and I just that's where I got into, like, instead of being the handicapper side, I was just looking for beating like the closing line value or finding the best, bets based off of the percentage to win, the implied odds versus what the books were actually giving. And I don't know. I always end up, I've had some good nights in UFC, and then I also, once I start drinking, might make some bad bets. Might bet the house on Jamal Hill.
Never mix alcohol with gambling. Is one of my pieces of advice to anybody.
Well, that's the thing. It's not, gambling is not fueled by people doing it responsibly. Nothing's fueled by anything being done responsibly. So it's like it goes hand in hand. It's way more fun to just not care and throw the whole wad on somebody. But I think if you're gambling in the right way, I think you can do it responsibly, like the way I do it. Yeah. There is a responsible way. I believe it's
responsible. Yeah.
There's a totally smart and responsible way, and I like that because I was like, I'm tired of losing bets and doing parlays. I want to do people actually make money doing this? And like, very few do, but it really comes down to more of just like you would in investing. It's like just discipline. Like, had a small little correction. Keep doing your same systems. Keep the unit size the same. I've just
so the way it works is you've got to have a bankroll, and then
you have to have a
bankroll. Then you bet 1% of that bankroll for every 1 unit that you spend. And for UFC, for example, I've always been disciplined to try and not exceed 10% of my bankroll per event, which then allows me to, not go crazy, bet responsibly. They're educated bets as it is. So I do think that the way that I go about it is as educational and responsible as it possibly could be.
But yeah, that industry wouldn't be booming if everyone was betting like that.
Look, do you actually know the number of profitable gamblers across every sport globally?
It's got to be like in the 1%, dude.
Yeah, it's 1%. 1% of gamblers globally.
Well, that's because it's just like everything else in life. It's like, oh, you want to like have success, then you got to go to the gym and go to sleep on time and eat right. It's like none of the fun stuff, but like doing a 10-leg parlay and being a fun gambler. Like I said, I've never picked a perfect card. I've got a lot of 3 for 5s, 4 for 5s, but can never pick a perfect UFC card to save my life. And it's so funny how many times it will be like the minus 400 guy. I think the worst beat I had this year was did like a 6-leg, and it was the first card of the year with Strickland, and it was the guy who lost to Neil Magny. I can't remember his name, but that made me so mad because he was just taking him apart piece by piece, and then he's like, it's not a win unless you finish him. He got finished. It was so stupid.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Mike Malott.
Mike Malott, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, why did I even put a minus 400 guy in this to begin with?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, at minus 400, that's telling you that the masses, the public,
Well, he was a minus 4,000 like live before the round started. All he had to do was just not do what he did.
And he just fell apart, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, he went for it he was fighting like he was down 2 rounds.
Yeah, and I think that comes with experience. I think there's minus 400s that can have value, and there's minus 400s that you
win
should
is
be
a win, right?
Yeah, and look, when it comes to betting if you're going to bet a minus 400 favourite, you want to make sure that they're experienced, that they've experienced losses before and come back. They've been on losing streaks. They've had winning streaks. They're obviously a good fighter in that specific fight. I mean, they're minus 400, so you're assuming that they're going to be.
Right.
But the
other thing too is, I don't know about the books that you have, but like on like big UFC nights, DraftKings and on all those, they'll give you like a profit boost if you do, like a 3-leg or more parlay, so that minus 400 is not weighted at a minus 400, I guess.
We have one. There's one book in the UK that does that.
How is gambling? How is sports betting like out there? Is it widely accessible legally, or is it like you have to do like a offshore thing where you have to like do crypto? Or
I think it's one of the best countries in the world for gambling. Widely accessible, absolutely legal. And the other thing as well, which happens in some other European countries, not sure in America, but doesn't happen in the UK, is it's not taxable. So any earnings, any winnings from betting, there's no tax on it. It's free. It's free tax. So the only shit thing that happens with some English books is when you are winning, often they'll either limit your account or suspend your sports betting account. They don't want winning gamblers. Whereas some books in America, like there's a guy that I've spoken to a load of time, really good guy. I've been on his podcast on UFC Fight Pass as well, Nick Kalika. So Nick is an odds maker. So he opens lines, or at least he used to. And he said before that there's some of the books that he works with, or he has worked with in the past, they actually really encourage winning gamblers because it helps them dictate where lines are going and stuff like that. Whereas in the UK, it seems to be backwards. As soon as you're winning, they freak out and either suspend your account or limit you.
I have to imagine it's probably like insurance companies, right? You have the more money that's pooled, and then you can use that the data. Like they just have enough, I guess, capital to be able to operate in that way. Because I know I've seen.
Adam, but what really frustrates me is that the books will suspend or limit your account if you're winning.
Yeah.
But if you're losing thousands and thousands, they love you. And the thing is with gambling, because it can be an addiction, they will happily be an access. I know they've got all the gambling addiction tools where you can limit your spend and where you can limit how long you're logged in or how much you spend a week and all that sort of stuff.
Nobody uses those, dude. Come on.
If you're an addict, you're not going to be using that feature. So the bottom line is, for me, the books are more than happy to accept somebody that's losing thousands, that's probably clearly got a gambling addiction. That's their best customer, and it infuriates me because when someone is actually winning, it's shitty. Either if you're winning over a certain amount or losing over a certain amount, suspend both. It's wrong. It's ethically wrong.
Yeah, ethically, but come on, baby. There was something I thought was interesting was so I'm always down a rabbit hole with this stuff, and I started getting ads for like starting your own bookie business. Like they're like, we'll give you the software, give you this, and I just went and explored their website, and it was like they had AI that did it for like the live betting, like changing the lines, and then it's like one of the features of the book was that it will identify sharp bettors and kick them out of your sports book. So like that was a feature of that software.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the first one that I ever got, I didn't even limit my account. They just suspended me. It was years ago. I didn't even bet that much. I think at the time, I put maybe about £100 on Thiago Santos at even money to beat Jan Blachowicz, right? And he won. And the second, I'm telling you now, well, maybe not the second, but within about an hour of that bet winning, they suspended my account over £100. Like, I don't even think I was. I mean, obviously I was up on that bookie, but I didn't rinse it, because what I did at the time, Adam, is I had about 10 different available bookies. So I always used to spread my bets between.
Yeah, well, that's what you're supposed to do. That's the benefit of having a bunch of books.
So I didn't stand out at one specific bookie. So if I knew that I was winning, I've won over the last couple of weeks at bookie number one, I would probably stop using that bookie for a couple of weeks so that heat would die down and I would use another one. And that's the way that I used to do it. Now, I can only use 3. I've only got 3 books. Like, I've been suspended or limited. I'll tell you another one that they limited me on as well. It was a book in the UK, and I bet Arnold Allen to beat Calvin Kattar at -110. Within 2 hours, a lot of money came in on Arnold Allen, and he went up to about -130, maybe -140, and William Hill limited me straight away because I beat the line within the space of a couple of hours. They're so fickle, but like
it sounds like
they're more than happy to accept. They're more than happy to accept people with gambling addictions, but then when you're actually winning,
here's a free bonus bet. We want you back after you deleted the apps. Well, there's an interesting app. I don't know if they have it where you're at, but it was the one that I was using where you can sync all your sports books up to it, and it would give you the breakdowns of where you're at with each one. And do they have that? Do you use Pickett?
No, for MMA I use a website called betmma.tips, and that tracks all my bets. So I only bet what's on that, and that's got all your stats there. So I can see how much I'm betting. I can how many units I bet. My return of investment percentage. It does all the maths and the calculations for you. So I know whether I'm up or down just by going onto my betmma.tips profile.
Now, do you think that like when you'll see a big event and it'd be like boxing, UFC, they'll show like, oh, here's how much Drake bet on this person. Do you think that he actually makes that bet, or is that like, because I felt it was the same way with like Pokemon cards where they're like, oh, Logan Paul just paid $500,000 for this Charizard. I'm like, did he, or are you just trying to make everyone else buy it? Because I don't think you would just be able to sell, or I guess I just don't think they're betting that much money. I think it's more of an influencer marketing.
Yeah,
scheme.
it could be. If you're asking me what my opinion is, I've got absolutely no idea. Would I be shocked that, multi-millionaire Drakes bet a couple of million, which is probably just like me walking up to a drain and dropping a pound down it? Would I be surprised if a multi-millionaire's chucked a couple of a million as a bit of a fun way to spend a bit of money? No. Would I be shocked if it's all bullshit and the bookies are using it as a marketing scheme to maybe get people in on certain bets? I think that would be less surprising if I'm being honest. I'm cynical, but I'm a comedian too, so I'm always thinking like, why would he? The funny thing with Drake though is the fact that he's known for losing bets. So maybe the marketing strategy from the bookie is tell people who Drake's betting, everyone bets against it, and then hopefully the one that Drake bet actually does win. Maybe, I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah, I guess the attitude maybe is just a little bit different on betting here now. It's so much. Yeah, the state that I was living in, I think there's maybe one sports book like DraftKings, and now I live in Arizona, and I never even got into sports betting until I moved here. But there's it seems to be a new sports book opening up every few months that has hey, deposit this, make your first bet, and we'll give you these bonus bets. It's I'm not going to turn down $150 in bonus bets. I can't say no to that. But
listen, when it comes to match betting, because some will do some UK books have done, make your first bet at this bookie and we'll match your bet in a free bet up to £1,000 or something, which to some people £1,000 a lot of money, to others it isn't, but £1,000 can get you a decent amount of returns if you're using that free bet, because all you'd have to do is put £1,000 on, and even if you lose it, just bet £1,000 on something that evens with the free bet, and then you've got a chance to win that back anyway. So it's
now what was I going to say? I saw something that in America, more people, especially my age, younger, more people are putting money into sports betting than they are into stock market.
Right. So look, on that, I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about. I know bits about obviously the stock market, stock exchange, but definitely not an area that I have any sort of expertise in. All I know is when you're betting on MMA, for example, obviously there's a lot of volatility that comes with that. It's the same with the stock exchange. A fighter can let you down just like a business can flop, right?
Yeah. But it's a lot of parallels though, where it's don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And the thing is with MMA, it's short-term investments, because once your fight is fought, you've then got a return on it. Whereas a business, it's a longer-term investment where you're putting money into a specific business, and you're hoping that business grows. But then maybe that's where the lack of knowledge comes from, because I'm sure there's people out there that will put money in a business for a month, take it out, and then put it somewhere else. Maybe, I don't know. But for me, I understand MMA. I can analyze MMA. I feel like I can make educated decisions based on the knowledge that I've obtained over the years of being in the sport. Like I say, for me, betting MMA is comfortable because I'm comfortable with it.
So here, because I come from that side of the world, financial advising, to insurance, did a lot of insurance. And because I just see the parallels with all of it. When you see FanDuel, one of the bigger sports books, has table tennis on. There's always something that you can bet on. Do you know if those start as a little book in this Czech Republic? There's a small little book, and then FanDuel comes in and buys it from them in order to fund that.
I mean, I don't know if you're asking me if that's what happens, but it would be something that I wouldn't be too surprised about, and probably a smart strategy from a business perspective to do that. Because if you buy in the smaller books around the world, then all you're doing is growing the business and gaining more territories, and Therefore, more
there's
more
always
custom, more money, more profit. Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that where you're at, but there's just always something to bet on. Even if it's 4 a.m., you can find Chinese table tennis, and
Yeah, I could bet on probably like an under 18 game in the Argentinian regional football circuit. You know what I mean? Like there's always there's always something to bet on.
Yeah, I think people don't know that are just like, because like I was an athlete and then I went to college and my major was sports business and I learned the business side. I'm like, sports are kind of stupid, man. Why am I cheering for these grown men? I got to pay my own bills. And then you bring gambling into it, and I think a lot of people don't understand that that's really what fuels, especially at like to have like all these. Because I come from the basketball world, like there's all these professional leagues that I would send players to that like on the court. Every there wasn't even any fans at the game, but there's just signs everywhere like for betting on these games.
Yeah, so it's like you look at UFC. One of UFC's biggest sponsors will be DraftKings. I haven't got the numbers, but if you said to me, what in my opinion, from the outside looking in, what do I think UFC's biggest income is from sponsorship? I would guess DraftKings. You look at football in the UK, most football teams are sponsored by a gambling company. Whoever it's on the t-shirts, and then it's all on the banners around the stadiums and the visuals. Everything
is that
in sports.
Is that something you look at? Like that's a trend that I've looked at for like baseball and football is like where the public money is, especially in the major market teams.
No, not like I say. For me, I mean, sort of where the public money is anyway, because when you're following and tracking betting lines lines are opened by the bookies and moved by the public. So, if a fighter opens up as a plus 100 underdog, slight underdog, but then he closes at minus 200 favourite, you know exactly where the public's money has gone, because that's what's driven the line to grow that wide. So, yeah, there's always different ways you can see where the public's got the money.
Yeah. So we got Merab, Grasso, Ortega.
I've got O'Malley, Grasso, Lopez.
That's what I meant. I don't know. Watch me do all the analysis now and pick against what I said and then be wrong.
This is why I said to you, look, if you've got that super strong, because the thing is, like, I've got a bit. I don't get influenced by anybody anymore. Maybe I used to years and years ago, but I absolutely don't anymore. But the one thing that infuriates me is and it's not just with MMA. If I bet on a football game or something, I don't make a habit of it. It's just a little fun money while I'm enjoying the sport. But if I've got a very strong feeling on a fighter, for example, and I decide, actually maybe I'd want a better line, and if I get this line, I'll bet it. So I stay disciplined. So say if my fighter's minus 175, but I want minus 130 or minus 150, and I'm like, look, it's just a little bit too far out, so I'm going to stay disciplined. I'm not going to bet it. That fighter goes out and smashes his opponent. It's infuriating because, you had that strong lean, but you've got to have an element of discipline.
Sure.
But if I can't imagine how infuriating it would be if I liked one side and then I decided to bet the other side because of public opinion, and then my side actually won. Like that wouldn't sit right with me.
I think there's something to be said about it. Like, I hate losing more than I enjoy winning, especially when it comes,
It's funny you've said that, because that's been one of my sort of mottos and phrases that I've lived by for years and years. You've got a friend there, brother. That's been one of my mottos and phrases that I've lived for years, that I hate to lose more than I love to win.
Yeah,
and you're the only human being that has ever actually said that to me. I've never heard anybody else say it. And I just
noticed that with myself. Like, I'll never like talk about the wins that I have. I'm just like, bro, I was so close to hitting this, and just those stories are way more fun to tell. No one wants to hear about your success. So
again, like, learning in this game with the gambling game. I used to take losses hard, and when I say what I mean by taking losses hard is they stayed with me for a few days, whereas a win would stay with me for a few hours, and then I'm over it and done. But a loss would stay with me for a few days. Now I'm more experienced, and I've been in the game for years and years. Like a loss still stays with me a little bit more than a win, but I'll lose, and then about an hour later I'm fine. Whereas whereas a win, I'll win, I'll be buzzing for 5 minutes, and then it's gone.
Yeah, that's there's the real way to make money long term is betting discipline with a limit and a unit strategy and a bankroll. Can't stress that hard enough. I've never been able to build a bankroll enough to where it's like I didn't have to pull the money out to pay for something else. But I have seen that there's companies now that will fund you basically to do the bets. Do you know anything about those?
No, I've heard of like other. I don't know if the handicapper is the right word, but other handicappers will take over people's betting accounts, which is very, at least in the UK, is very illegal. You'll get your account, You'll get your account shut down if they find out that you've logged into a betting account that's not yours.
It's more like, because I was doing poker for a while, and I was like thinking in my head, I'm like, these guys are so much balls. They're going and playing with their own $1 million, but like they're getting staked by sponsors and people that are putting money into them. So that's kind of what these things, I started getting ads for those too, like, do you not have a bankroll? Like, we'll fund you $50,000 if you can prove that you can hit these metrics. And I was like, if you could do that, then you could actually pull off an income every month.
I think with doing that adds an additional level of pressure that you don't need, because again, I've known other professional gamblers that have charged people for the tips and for the bets, and they've done it for a few years, and then they've stopped charging, gone back to just giving the bets out for free, and said that, look, I've got a massive weight off my shoulders, it's the best that I've ever felt. And again, in the early days of when I first started putting a price on what I do, I did have that stress and pressure as well, of people are relying on me, like, if I lose a bet, they lose a bet, and I was more focused on them than what I was myself.
Yeah, and a lot of friends
with time and experience. Like, I'm not saying that I don't care about anybody else, because that's not true, but I focus on me, because if I do me and I do me well, then everybody else does well. When I'm focusing on everybody else, I'm worried about them and not myself, then that's when you'll start underperforming. And you've just got to, I think in this game, if you're charging people for a service when it comes to betting tips, you've got to have the head, the experience, and just being very calm and relaxed in what you do, because if you don't, that's when things go south.
I'll just use a faceless page, dude. Don't even reveal who you are.
Exactly.
They said like the people who made the most money during the gold rush in America was the people selling the shovels. I was like, yeah, that's what it's a bunch of shovel sellers, dude. That are usually selling picks, and you're like, shh. But I mean, I've joined some of those, and they're sometimes right, but whenever my friends, because I'm usually, they'll hit me up and be like, what do I do for UFC today? And I'll send them the picks, but I always make sure I text after, please bet responsibly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hey, I told you, dude. But I won't give someone a bet that I'm not taking myself.
Yeah.
So if I lost, like, you don't think I didn't lose too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So. Well, that's why on MMA Play 365 we've got the official bet section, because if you just want to bet on what I'm betting on, then it's there. That's where I'm physically putting my money.
Well, I think even if you don't take your bets, I think reading how you analyze it and seeing your strategy with units, and then you have like the different profitability strategy. Like, that was just all like cool information to get, like, hey, put it on this first fight. If that hits, you got your profit. You can put a little bit more, enjoy the card.
And look, the main reason, Adam, that the written breakdowns are on that, because the written breakdowns are in a different section. They're in the long-term gambler section. So they're 3 or 4 bets that I like. I might only take 2 of them, but the 3 or 4 bets that I think are good bets. Because remember, I use betting strategies as well. But the main reason for those written breakdowns is so somebody reading them can understand where I'm coming from with the bet, how I'm seeing the fight play out. Because look, if I'm wrong, which like I said at the start of this, I've been wrong before, I'm going to be wrong again. If I'm wrong, at least you can understand how I got to my decision.
Yeah,
making
dude.
that bet.
I think I did better.
That's
I did better when people. I never put pressure or charged people because I'm not an expert. But whenever I gave a paragraph, maybe I was just writing to myself a lot of the time. But I would give a paragraph as to why I'm choosing this bet. It would feel like I would do a lot better because it forced.
Because even if I lose that bet and somebody comes back and they're like, oh well, that was it was an incorrect bet. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes one of my fighters will be winning the fight and then they'll suddenly lose, but they'll be winning the fight in the way that I've stated they're going to be winning the fight, and then it's MMA, it's volatile, and they might get knocked out or submitted in a flash way and lose. But at least you can understand that I was there, like I made an educated bet, and nothing in life certainty apart from deaths and taxes.
Well, like I said, what I would like too is like not just the analysis, but you actually lay out like 3 different betting strategies that you could take in order to secure a profit. Like put it on your favorite 2, pick those, first one hits, or if one of those hits, then you're up. If neither of them hit, then you got your third one that maybe, or your different strategy. It just gave me new perspective on how to approach a UFC card where, I might in the past have bet everything before everything started and then just sit there and watch versus like,
and look, the betting strategies is like I say, I've been doing this for over 10 years. I know anybody that's worth knowing in the handicapping game, I'll know them, know of them. I've not seen this betting strategy, at least the way I do it, with anybody else before. And I'm not saying people don't use betting strategies. It's just, I think, and look, there's no right or wrong way of doing this either. Like the betting strategies is something that worked for me and helped my rise in becoming a professional gambler. And so therefore I'm going to stick to what I've learned, stick to the tools that I've played around with and found what's successful for me. And now I'm relaying that in, now there's a price on what I do. So when it comes to
very reasonable price, I might add.
Yeah, and look, the reason why it's so cheap in regards to what we charge is because the ethos that we have to live on with this is anybody that's paying for our service, to actually make money, to make profit yourself, you first have to cover the cost of the subscription. So if we were charging $100 a month, in that month you've got to make $100 just to cover that subscription before you can even then start profiting on your bets. Now, if you're betting $10 a unit, covering $100 is going to be a tough ask. Yeah. Now, if you're betting $1,000 a unit, $100 will probably be a piece of piss. But not everybody is going to be at that level to be able to spend $1,000 a unit. So a month is $9.99, which is the same as a Spotify subscription and Netflix subscription. So it's already a number that you're comfortable paying for other services. But it's also $10. So even if you're betting $10 a month, $10 a unit, all you've got to do is profit 1 unit and you've covered your subscription, and then you're on your own, not on your own because you've got our advice, but you're free rolling them for the rest of the month. So yeah, that's why our prices are so cheap. You've got to be able to make your money back from the service before you can start profiting. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you stand for the right things. So I've always appreciated that it was very affordable. Like, because I take breaks too. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm done betting for a while, but I can just get it, restart it whenever I want. If I want to watch a card at $10, it's well, a single event's $4.99. So if you only want one card, it's $5. it's like the price of a coffee. Yeah, I've always said this. You'll spend more on your drink and your takeaway watching an event than what you will actually spending paying for the service that could allow you to make profit on top of that. Our service could end up making you pay back the money that you spent on the subscription, your food, your drink for the night, and give you a little something extra to throw in for next week as well. I'm never ever picking Tai Tuivasa ever again, dude. Ever. But
Yeah, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know it was a long time coming, but the UFC 306 Saturday at the Sphere. Have you been to Vegas at all for a fight?
Never been to Vegas. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Nice. Yeah, dude. I went once when it was the one where Askren got knocked out by Masvidal. I was at that one.
Oh shit! Yeah. Okay.
It's a good one to be at.
Yeah.
But yeah, UFC. How do you? I can't even say his last name. That's why I call him Merab. But that will be
Dvalishvili.
Yeah, Marab and Sean O'Malley, Valentina Shevchenko, and Alexa Grasso. Newsome, appreciate you coming on. I'll make sure to have all your info in the show notes and a link where they can go check out MMA Play and all that. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Perfect. Thank you for having me, Adam. Like you said, it was a long time coming. You know, we've been talking for a while, so finally glad to get sort of face-to-face digitally and chat some fights.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Take care.